around. They'll need to kind of move around. So
Hey. Come back, stay here.
Yeah,
We're good here.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We need to go.
Are we live? We're
Yeah,
live.
we're live.
You made us live.
Okay.
Hello again from Brussels. We're back. So I'm gonna just jump around while everybody's sitting down and let them introduce themselves. Again, I'm Colin from Liquidity.
I'm ADCV from Steakhouse Financial.
Yeah, I'm Nick from Mellow.
Michael, we're live and just walked in.
Hey.
And I'm Sam. Michael, you're gonna have to come sit over here if you're gonna be in the thing. We got one space that's crowded here. We're all friends here.
Everybody get friendly.
So welcome everybody. I guess Michael's gonna sit over here. Here, come join me here.
Cuddle in.
We got our cables today.
That's fine. People can see the mess that's around us. Can see the mess that's in Brussels.
But it's good. Let's get right to it because we got a hard stop. We have Steakhouse and Mellow here today. So let's get some introductions done, guys. I think everybody on stream knows myself and also Colin, since he was here yesterday. Michael is here from Liquidity, but you guys have just joined us, so let's hear it.
Yeah, I'm ADCV. I'm a co-founder of Steakhouse Financial. We're a crypto advisory firm, and we work with organizations and DAOs, and we specialize in stablecoins. But we're also prolific and unapologetic stake teeth, lighter stake teeth bull posters, which is,
And I'm Nick. I'm co-founder of Mellow Protocol, and is the system for issuing LRTs with different risk profiles, different risk curators. Steakhouse is one of curators in our system.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep.
Well, I guess we can start there then. Where are we with Lido stake teeth, and should we be worrying about the rise of all these LRTs that potentially could be taking market share away?
yeah. So we're actually quite positive on the. I don't mind holding it. So we're actually quite positive about restaking in general. I think it's I gave a talk at Quantlet's restaking day yesterday about this topic. Personally, my view is that I think stake teeth will eventually become one of the main sort of ways to restake. There's a good reason for this. Like when you have a marketplace for decentralized trust, like this allows quite an interesting range of new applications to emerge. But staking itself is very, very difficult. I mean, it's getting easier and easier, but when you try to do it at scale and in the form of an LRT, you find that, if you try to, you have to now bootstrap a network of, validators who want to join if you want to do so-called native restaking.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I mean, our perspective, based on our experience as users of Lido stake teeth and based on some of the analytics and data that we've been able to do, we show that, Lido has now something like 180 different validators, different node operators, started off with, a professional node operator set, but is now expanding into, DVT technology and soon community staking, which is dramatically increasing the decentralization of Ethereum. And so we think that as a staking middleware, it's kind of the perfect solution to do the native staking rate, make sure that users at the very, very least get that,
mm-hmm.
and then focus the LRT space and the restaking space on just AVS curation, network curation, like selecting the right networks, identifying ones that have sustainable business models and that can provide a restaking reward rates in non-volatile currencies. And then perhaps Sticky takes care of the rest. And I think, Mellow's architecture is really an enabler. It's not the only way to use Symbiotic, but it's definitely the easiest so far. And this is sort of why we were keen to partner with them.
Yeah, I would also add here that, as ADCV mentioned, that there are the stake teeth. It's really one of the best assets for restaking, and the industry of restaking is not mature yet. It's very new, and it's not that much sustainable business models at this moment. So that's why we need the sustainable yields, at least for the start. And another thing is that I think it's very important to have permissionless systems for restaking right now, because you need to give space to iterate, to have more new types of applications built on top of restaking. And like if the systems are permissionless, then you just give that space to iterate and to find those business models.
I think it's fascinating. I mean, I consider myself quite a noob into everything restaking. Like, granted, Liquidity, we're working with LSC, so we know you guys and what Lido does. But I think the restaking thing is fascinating. I think there's probably a lot of people that are like me and afraid to ask about restaking. But what are some of the things that you're excited about? Like, what does restaking enable that we can't do otherwise?
So we tried to think about this from all the steakhouse chefs. We have very low IQs, and we try to understand things that in a very simple way. The easiest way for us was to think of a buy versus build type of framework. If you try to build a sovereign application that absolutely needs security, the typical way to do it is launching a layer one. And when you launch a layer one, you face the problem of you have to incentivize the validators to join. You have to issue a ton of your token. You have to bring in the users. You have to solve all of these different problems. The trade-off is that if it succeeds, you end up with a network like Ethereum, which is truly decentralized and sovereign. The restaking marketplace idea is to make this decision a bit easier. Previously, the only way to build, or the major way of building a sovereign ecosystem was through basically building a layer one. The Cosmos approach is kind of looks like this. With restaking, you have this concept of a marketplace for decentralized trust, which looks more like renting. And in our balance sheet type frameworks, it would be you would be asking providers of restaked capital to become a type of senior position, offering security, allowing new applications to inherit security from the underlying layer, which when it's Ethereum, it's like the best security available, but basically brings the costs down for new applications to emerge. That's it. Sorry, I don't want to wrap.
Yeah, it's also the UX for any like protocol to get direct access to operators, because right now, if you need the node operators, you need to go and discuss everything with all the parties. In this case, you can come to the existing protocols that aggregate the operators, and it makes it much easier to bootstrap any system. So it just like lowers the barriers for the new protocols.
So the other thing that again, coming from kind of a noob thing on the LRT space, obviously points around EigenLayer, and that was a big meta, and that's kind of we know what's come out of that to an extent. What's the discussion that you guys are having here? Are people still excited about the LRTs? What are they excited about? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I think like maybe it's my bias here, but like I hear all the conversations about restaking around, and like literally everyone is speaking about restaking. It's probably one of the major narratives here at ECC. And I hear lots of conversations about symbiotic as well, not only EigenLayer, and lots of comparisons between the systems. So I think the interest to restaking, it's probably just grows at this moment. And it's not only about points. It's right now, it's mostly about the real utilization, because like points, of course, it's like probably important part of the game right now. But the main thing is to find the real utilization for the stake that we have in the systems. And it's very important to work on the demand side right now to get the real utilization from the side of networks, from the side of AVSs. And probably at this point, like the most interesting directions is to look into everything where we have transactional yield. On a bit later stages, it will be probably a bit more important to look at some newer use cases like ZK coprocessing, TEs, and other things, but they also need to get a bit more mature right now. So that's what I'm seeing around.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like the points narrative has been a surprisingly effective capital raising strategy to the point where the expectation for rewards rate from restaking is probably quite muted, unless there's a significantly large ecosystem of applications that can afford it, basically. But I think a key difference now versus 6 months ago even is just the interest on specific details around networks, their business models, who the users are, and what the interactions are going to be like for the operators.
I want to actually pose this to the Liquidity guys, right? Does restaking break DeFi? Because we're adding in a new type of asset, which has a huge amount of new risks that come along with it. Every time you provide AVS services to a new, or every time you provide services to a new AVS, there's an additional level of risk on there. And I don't see how it's possible to bring LRTs back into the existing DeFi systems that we have and kind of group them all into one place to say issue a stable coin, right? Like Bolt. I don't know how that can be done. I don't think that's possible because like when you're layering on, let's say you have your LRT, which is layered on 10 different AVSs. How do you price that? How do you like say that we can look at this and we can look at all the slashing risks that come along with it, and we're going to issue stable coins at this rate and whatever, right? I don't think it's possible.
We'll just take leverage. That's a really good question. I'm really annoyed because I have to leave.
Oh,
That's such a good question. But thanks for your
So you're gonna respond to that?
I talked too long. And,
No. It's a good question, but I leave Nick with the answers.
Yeah, it's actually it's one of the reasons why we built Mellow, because like in Mellow we can have LRTs with different risk profiles, and the initial thinking was that the existing solutions, they overexpose users to slashing risks, and that's why we need different risk profiles. So depending on how curators operate with the slashing risks, then you can decide on how to work with those risks in the DeFi ecosystem. And also there are probably three major types of curators in our system. It's operators themselves, it's hedge funds, and it's research teams. And probably operators will be leaning towards having less risk. Hedge funds will naturally have higher risk and higher yields. And in this case, you can have different utilization of those assets in DeFi.
Let's say we're looking at an LRT that exists in the future. It's in a lending protocol, or it's issuing a stablecoin, right? It's about to get slashed because it's done something wrong to the AVSs. There's something that's happening to the AVS. It's about to get slashed. Like, what moves first? Does price move first, or is it at the consensus net, or is it the beacon chain level that you get slashed first? Like, who's the first mover here, and how do you bake that in when you're looking at DeFi protocols to say, like, because he who liquidates first always liquidates best, right?
Yeah, you still can, like, so there are different perspectives, but the simplest way is to probably monitor the mempool to get the information first about the upcoming slashing. And there can be different slashing models as well, because like probably it's in extreme scenario, but depending on the assets that you utilize, you can also utilize for some like extreme use cases RWAs, and the slashing in this case can take probably 1 week because you need to liquidate the assets, and like you have really long time periods to adjust the parameters of the systems and do whatever you need.
Right. But the on-chain pricing should change very quickly. I'm just like,
Yeah,
you know, we find in these kind of like split-second reaction times that like it's a lot of things can break really quickly.
I think there's an obvious answer here, which is we need to recreate Wall Street and have like a CDS for slashing risk, so people can like have a DeFi protocol to say these guys have an 80% chance of losing their money and getting slashed the next month.
Right.
I was just wondering, as we are talking about risks, a lot is introducing risks. I was just wondering, how much incentives do they need to get? You know, what's your expectation? I mean, I assume these model EDSs need to generate quite some revenue, probably to justify that risk. Can you talk about that kind of in which range and kind of which models are even able to bootstrap kind of enough revenue so people would even reach that?
Yeah, I think so. There are no specific numbers on that because probably there's still not enough research on that. But I think with the restaking, like as I mentioned, it's important to look into transactional yield and working with rollups probably, or any networks, and that's the way to get some sustainable yield for the system. Of course, it will be incentivized for quite a long period before we get some more sustainable models. But with that transactional yield, I think it's the way to go to bootstrap all those systems.
And I see Liam from Fairblock.
Hi, my name's Liam. Oh,
Yeah, just
take
it.
thank you. Hi, my name's Liam from Fairblock. Sam just sent me in here. We've been
Good.
chatting for a while. Good to meet you guys.
Great to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. What's your name?
So Colin from Liquidity.
Still a blind date?
It's a bit of a blind date. We are live on the show here. by the
Okay.
way.
Hello, everyone. Good to
So,
meet. Pleasure.
Tell us a bit about what you guys do.
Yeah. So Fairblock is a MPC provider for making encryption more accessible on chain. This extends to protocols, to different applications. We fit in really like any layer of the stack, whether it's inside of a sequencer, a full node, a smart contract. Yeah.
Awesome. So we were just having a discussion here about LRTs, which obviously
Awesome.
very popular.
Yep.
Don't know if you have any kind of thoughts on that. You've been talking about that. But we've identified it as kind of a big theme here.
Yeah. LRTs. So
You may say I
no. I mean, the point of this is to have hot takes, right?
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah,
hear.
Exactly.
We're looking for those.
So
It's Tinder magic.
I like coming from DeFi before I pivoted into infra. I'm kind of under the impression that a lot of the LRT protocols today like didn't go to the same DeFi universities that we all did. Like it feels like many of those guys, you know, haven't been rugged before or like haven't experienced a smart contract hack. Before I say anything else, will I offend anyone immediately next to me? Yes or no?
Will you be offended?
No. We also pivoted from DeFi, so
Okay.
probably it was the same university.
Okay, yeah.
So the question that's asked: have you been rugged?
Many times as a user.
Okay.
Not as a protocol.
Yes.
I think we should also add on like liquidity issues here as well too, because many of these new LRTs take the illiquidity that comes from the LSDs and then they add another like level onto it, and a lot of the designs and kind of mechanisms to keep the peg just don't work for them. We've already seen this several times over this year where there's been mass deleveraging because of lack of withdrawals. I mean, that again, internal decisions there, but lack of liquidity to absorb a good amount of sells, and then once the liquidations start to not be able to stop those liquidation cascades before going 70% down on some markets. So I think there's a lot to learn for the existing LR2 players. It's going to be probably a little bumpy over the next year as they learn a lot of the same things that say like Lido or Rocket Pool or Frax had to go through in building their LSDs. And hopefully they go back and have good mentorship there.
So Liam, as you entered as a DeFi boomer, would you use LRTs, or which risk are you most afraid of?
Well, just as a preface, so I think the most equipped protocols to be launching LRTs are existing DeFi protocols that are weathered, that like have seen the storms. I'm kind of skeptical of like new LRT protocols that are coming out and kind of just like running with the narrative. So that's like the preface to that, or like to how I feel. But your question is, which ones would I use?
No, would you use it, and which risks are you most afraid of?
Yeah, I would use it, but I would only use it like, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to shill liquidity here, but like I've been a liquidity fan for a while. So like, you know, if from what I understand, like V2 is headed into the LR2 direction, correct? Or
LST,
correct?
We're staying conservative. We're only going the one level in.
Okay. So
maybe we should launch an LRT.
I would be more comfortable if like a weathered DeFi protocol launched in LRT, but I'm mostly worried about like the smart contract hacks, especially when you add layers and layers on top of like the base layer protocol or like the base layer asset itself. As you're adding more and more, you know, like restaked abstraction, there's more and more attack vectors, and it seems like a lot of new teams or maybe investors that are like aping into these LRTs, are being, what's the word? Blissfully ignorant of all of the risks that, come when you build this tower on top of a possibly unstable foundation.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. So,
And, like, I think with the LSDs, we had gone through like a whole cycle,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Bull, bear. Oh, hey, thank you. We believe that any sort of crypto project until it's had full cycles.
Mhm.
Like, you just can't say anything about it
Mhm.
during the speculative period. It's not until everything cools off, everything resets to like fundamental value, that you can make like healthy decisions about things. And so, like, on your point about existing providers, when Lido, through Symbiotic and Mello is launching, is this your bag?
It is.
Okay. We're going to do this, but Mello launching with Lido, great idea, right? Existing provider, number one LSD in the world. Probably a little shocked how their dominance kind of collapsed a little bit over the past year, going from 33% all the way back down to like 24 or 25 now. So I think there's a lot for them to learn. Yeah, I think a lot of having spoken with like Sam at Frax and some of the other people, I think Rocket Pool and Lido and Frax were just caught off guard by how like fast this new narrative came in with restaking, right? Like, it literally was like last year around April, like Sharam starts doing his thing, but it wasn't until like the end of the year, and all of a sudden within the course of 6 months, 3 million ETH had come away from both Lido and then all the other protocols into the new restaking protocols in just a really short amount of time. And these are untested. The quality of the services also untested as well too. One of the good things about having these long-standing LSDs is that if you look at Rocket Pool, obviously it's home managed, but the statistics on how the nodes operate and their quality, really well known. Same thing for Lido as well too. Same thing for Frax. Like, you can go and see it. These new ones, it's questionable how their validator services are going to work, right? So I think there's a lot of questions going into it. I don't know where the yield's going to come from.
Yeah,
it's fake.
It's fake.
I mean, whatever it is, but yeah. I mean,
there's $19 billion of ETH that is in the Eigenlayer contracts, or was in the Eigenlayer contracts. Let's just call it 20, so we can do some easier math. Adding 1% altogether is $200 million. Where does that come from?
Meme coins.
What's the largest revenue non-LSD actual DeFi app out there?
Pump.fun.
Pump.fun. How much revenue do they do here?
2 mil a day, I believe.
Yeah,
2 mil a day.
they could do it. So they're what, 700 million, like on run rate 700 million.
But they're already on Solana, and they don't.
They
don't need to move.
But
right?
we need an AVS based pump.fun. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I don't know. Maybe it's just like not being able to see the forest through trees.
But
I just don't. I don't know where the yield comes from, and then everything compresses back down. The yields and the LRTs are going to compress to like whatever the existing LSDs are, and then Rocket Pool can just add LRT functionality in for the home stakers that want to do it. Same thing that Frax is doing for V2. Lido's going to do it with Symbiotic. So like, I think I don't know. I'm not really. I don't see the benefit of moving into these like newer LRTs.
But it's like, and we were saying, like, been rugged in DeFi, like, remember Sushi Swap? And everybody's like, oh, great, I can yield farm this thing and earn 50% APY. I'm like the smartest person alive. And it's like every iteration of every food-based emoji you come up with, swap.
Yeah.
And it was like, I can get into this and get 500,000%. We had like billion% APYs.
Yeah.
And you knew you were going to get rugged. You're like, can I get out before?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the same thing with everything else, because somebody sees somebody succeeds and gets a lot of money. And as you said, billions of dollars of ETH are in there.
Right.
There's going to be the next person says, hey, I can give you, what was the thing with Blast? They said, we'll give you
native yield.
native yield. And then there was Mantle that was like substantial
Yeah.
native yield. Like, there's always the Me Too protocols.
But we'll see it with. We're going to see it with Liquidity later this year, you guys launch and you'll have 1,000 forks. I know you guys did your license, which I do want to talk about later.
Oh, like the friendly forks thing, right?
Yeah.
Friendly forks.
You wanna?
We're in the hot seat. Yeah, explain yourself, guys. Oh, over you.
Why not just open source?
That is a great question. It's one that's come up a lot, and it's one that we put a lot of thought into. So I'll kind of give you a few different reasons of why not just open source. We are open sourcing part of what we're doing.
Yes.
Not all of it. I'm not going to do the whataboutism. Other protocols have done it. That's not a reason.
Which ones?
Uniswap has done it without open source. Curve, Morpho, Aave, a number of them have not done full MIT licenses or whatever. For us, so there were some comments about, you should do this because it's a tax on the industry to not open source it. And I see their point. And I think one thing that really opened my eyes, and kind of for listeners' context, Liquidity is a top 5 most forked protocol in DeFi. So after like Uniswap V2 and Ohm, interestingly, like I don't know if we're 3 or 4, but somebody will check on DeFi Llama, but we're way up there. I believe there's north of 3 dozen production versions, not all still live, forks of our first version. That's great. I'd love to see the proliferation of people doing stuff in DeFi, and I think that's amazing. However, one thing that I learned when I joined these guys is that's also a huge tax for us as a team. So people are taking this, they're making modifications. Of those, 3 dozen, 80% plus have had some kind of a hack. I don't have the exact statistic, but most of them. And every time a hack happens, and I remember there was one of the big ones that will remain unnamed that was recently hacked and lost quite a bit of users' money. We're in the middle of building a protocol and spending a lot of money on engineers, and it's in the middle of a build phase. Oh crap, we need to spend the next 3 days with multiple developers figuring out if this impacts our users. It didn't, and we found that out pretty quickly. But literally, you have all these heads around the team where we have stuff we need to get done, and we're going, we need to tell our users this does or doesn't affect them, because we take security very, very, very seriously. Like, I wish I could show our Slack. Just the developers on the team, on the Liquidity team, are like no other. See, they care so much about security, and we pride ourselves on that. We really, really, really do everything we can to make sure that we don't get hacked. And I think we have a pretty good track record. I'm not going to do anything that's going to make me knock on wood anymore. But so far, that is a major priority and a major time constraint. When you have lots of protocols who do different things and maybe have a different view on audit and doing things, that does create extra work when something happens. And it's unfortunate for their users, and it's also unfortunate for us. Putting in a new license isn't going to stop that. I'm not going to say it is. We do feel like, at least in the beginning, when we're trying to figure it out and make sure users are comfortable with our system, that at least we can, and we've spoken with a lot of protocols that want to work with us, and one thing they like is we can share our learnings. We can say, this is why we made this choice. Don't just pull it out naively. Or this is why we didn't do this. Don't just put it in naively. And by doing something that isn't purely MIT or similar open source, we're able to have that closer working relationship. I think as a team, we're not looking to make a huge cash out. We're not looking to stifle innovation. That's not in our DNA. We're very pro-innovation. We're just asking the teams can have an open two-way dialogue with us. And that was the reason that we made this choice. It is a BSL, which means over time, and I don't have the exact number yet, we're still discussing, it'll be full open source. So just like Uniswap has done, we've seen that with Uniswap V3, it's full open source. And I think that's great. And hopefully that's at a point where people have monitored our code base, are comfortable with it, and we're at the point where we're very confident. If something goes wrong, if it would or wouldn't affect our users or that of our partners.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, maybe to add on that, I think the important part is that the DeFi ethos is still there. It's still source available code, so it should be fully transparent. We still kind of adhere to the immutability, all these things that we think are more important. So I think this is still given. And I think with the license, I understand why other teams do that too. It's just kind of so much effort, and we've seen quite some reckless behavior. So just we also want to have a bit of time together with teams we feel comfortable kind of working on this base code base and then release it to the public and to the community.
We also have other stuff that's more positive and very cool coming out that's kind of linked into this license, but we're not ready to talk about it quite yet. But people will like it. At least our users, we think, will like it.
Right. Let's move on to our other guest, Liam. How's it going?
Good.
We give it to you.
Sure. Hello. I do have some like maybe more takes
on restaking.
Is it against us?
No, the LRT stuff.
Oh, you wanna go
please.
back to the LRT stuff.
But we don't need to though.
No,
So,
let's
like,
go.
no, I wanna hear your hot
I
takes.
love hot takes. Let's go.
The hottest takes you got.
Yeah.
Second hottest.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How much ETH should be staked?
Staked or restaked?
Like staked, just in general. What percentage of ETH is a optimal amount to be staked?
From which perspective? Security?
Well, we could go the Cosmos route and say like 100%. We should just enable native staking, right? And then we'll pop back in LSD. Or we could say that it should be the minimal amount of ETH, say 5%, should only be needed to stake, because the only point of the staking is to ensure the security of the network. All the other ETH should just be out, and so this would reduce vastly the dependence on LSDs and LRTs as like extra contract risk. Like raw ETH is the best asset. Raw ETH is the safest. Raw ETH has no extra contract risk, and it's a net negative overall for these protocols to be adding in unknown risks that could create widespread systemic protocol risks in the future when we just are paying out this yield. Okay, that's
I have a hot take answer.
Sure.
All of the tokens that somebody would want to sell, 100% of those should be staked and unavailable.
okay.
All tokens that could be sold should be staked.
Mhm.
All of my tokens should not be staked.
yeah. I think in terms of like, is your question like regarding staked ETH or like staking ETH? Is it regarding like staking and then like restaking into like the restaking protocols, or is it more just like how much should be delegated to Lido versus other staking protocols?
I'm saying if you look at the entire supply of ETH,
Yeah.
should all the ETH in existence be staked somehow, either through home staking or the vast majority in LSDs, right? Because like the only reason to have regular ETH at this point is if you're paranoid about contract risk, or you just need to pay gas.
Yeah.
That is important in the Ethereum network to pay gas.
Yes.
We should have some of that still.
Right. I know we're all waiting for like the great WETH ETH depegging at some point.
You could corner ETH.
That would be insane. There was some weird like Twitter fluff about that several months ago. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was like it's one ETH like balance difference. Did you guys see that too?
It wasn't even
Remember
one ETH. Wasn't it like one way?
It was like something very, very small, and everyone was like, "Oh my god,
Is this the start?
this is the start. This is the initial like point." Or, like,
Didn't somebody look into it? And there wasn't actually a difference. It
It
was
got
like
debunked, like, really
Etherscan or
quickly.
something
Yeah.
showed it wrong.
yeah. I think as it relates to like staking ETH, I feel like if staking ETH is like how the network operates now, that's most ETH should be staked so that like it can go into like boosting economic security. I think maybe my take is that home staking or like individual staking should be more accessible and normalized. The thing is though, is like, we need to go through like a protocol upgrade for that to happen. Like the only people that can stake ETH at home are like very rich right now. Like to have 32 ETH, like no normal person has 32 ETH. So if we want to like democratize access to like contributing to Ethereum security, like by staking your ETH, then we should probably like lower the barriers to it. But like that feels unreasonable. Like that feels very unlikely that would ever happen.
Did you go to Vitalik's talk today? It's
No.
like he kind of directly addressed like a big part of it, and part of it is what looking at why people didn't do it. So you know, kind of survey results about why don't you stake, not LST specifically, but why don't you? And part of it was liquidity and having LSTs. Like people would say, I don't personally stake because I can't use it as an LST, so I'd use an LST.
Yeah.
Part of it was a big part of it was 32 ETH was a barrier, and his point was kind of like right now Ethereum is so secure, and his analogy was like, all right, you can always add another layer of steel to your front door, but if somebody can like break in the window, that's a problem. So what are the softer targets inside Ethereum as an ecosystem that we should be working on? And he was also saying, you know, maybe what we need is, and kind of coming back to your question, less staking, because we got more than enough. Maybe we can do things to network that make us a little bit less secure, but still extremely secure, the most secure thing. But it's just getting more home stakers involved at whatever 1 ETH, 4 ETH, 10 ETH, whatever the number is. Is that what we should be prioritizing? With Vitalik, it's very, very nuanced, so I'm not going to say what he said exactly. I'm sure you can watch it and make your own judgment. But it was an interesting discussion with a lot of nuance and never a definitive answer.
I think that there's a great political risk to the overall network if we allow LSDs to become endemic, where any sort of future protocol changes that potentially could reduce the amount of, or like if we could have the same security with the same amount, with like less amount of stakers, this would never be voted on by LSDs because it would kill their business model. And they have a responsibility to the token holders, not the network, first and foremost. And so I think that while I love LSDs, it's the only reason that I stake at all, is because I know that I have liquidity and I know that I can borrow against it. That I think that we're opening a box of Pandora's box of like what's going to happen politically in the future.
So back to hot takes. We're going to have a UASF.
Time to introduce
UASF.
So for those that don't remember, the Bitcoiners had this whole fight about whether they change block sizes and stuff. And people started wearing hats with camo on them, said UASF, and running their own nodes at home.
But coming back to the point about I mean, it does cost too much to stake. You should be able to stake with 1 ETH or less, like 0.1 ETH, if you want to run it and you think it's viable, right? And then the staking maximum should probably also be taken to like 2048 or 10,000 ETH or something, right? Like, I think we've seen the limitations were arbitrary, but like bringing the staking minimum down, I think is really important.
Isn't there a barrier to the hardware though? Like, isn't that part of the reason why staking 32 ETH is like the threshold right now? Or am I wrong about that?
I mean, there are definitely costs associated with running a node, but I don't know if.
I mean, when they decided the cost of staking ETH, it was $100.
Right.
So it was like $3,200, which seems about right. I mean, I mean, the cost of a DApp node. You're gonna go out and buy it. Sorry to push it. I know there's other things that you can stake with.
Do you have the ref code for us?
I don't have a ref code for DApp node, but I do have one, an older one. But I think the cost is around like 1,700 euros, right? Seems about right for the minimum. So it's going to cost around $5,000 to start staking. It's going to take a long time to get your money back. Hardware costs though.
Right. True.
So I don't know. I mean, like maybe you should have to get $64,000. Is that about it? 60,000. Maybe you should have to put together $60,000 because the cost of the computer equipment. You don't want people coming in and buying computer equipment and then never making enough money to then pay it off. It's like $2,000, right? How long is it going to take you to earn $2,000 with the e-staker node, right? At $60,000, it's what, like 5 years or something?
At 3,000. What's the price of ETH anymore?
It's like 3,000. To
So
make-
$100,000 investment in your node.
No, it's
Am I
like
doing math correctly?
no, it's like 60. It's like 65,
Yeah, the fact
60-ish thousand dollars, depending on. It's like
It's a lot of money. It's more than a car.
Or is it 90? Am I wrong?
I
It is
believe,
90. Sorry, it is 90.
I believe it's
Oh, God,
$96,000.
I'm really dumb. Okay, so it's
It's
96, 90,
so
90
much.
somewhere between 90 and $100,000. So a 2% hardware fee, it's not that much. But if you're staking with 1 ETH, that's $3,000. Now you're paying like a 60% hardware fee.
Yeah.
Right. The 2% you'll make back within a year with the current setup.
But it's all an investment in Ethereum. The idea, you're not losing money. You're making an ecosystem. It's a vibe.
I mean,
Hot takes, no?
well, maybe.
So,
I don't know. I mean, like, but if the hardware requirements keep going up, and I'm not against them going up as well too. I mean, this has been some of the discussions this week about like you want more home stakers, but that just means that you have to make the network performance worse. Because even looking at like what we have now, right? If you look, what's the analytics site that you can look and see?
Dune?
No, it's like specifically for LSDs. There's a site that you can see like what the performance of individual LSDs are and how they rate against everybody else, like what their uptime is, like how fast their latency is.
I think it's like LSD.WTF or something.
Yeah, there's a whole site on like timing games to see like how fast the LSDs are like coming back. And if you look at like the professional providers, so like Frax or Lido or something like, maybe not Lido because I think they engage in timing games. Like I think based on the data, but if you look at Frax is always the fastest in getting their block ready to go, right? If you look at a home staker like Rocket Pool, it's all over the place. Some have fast connections, some have slow connections, and so this creates performance issues over the long term. And so if you want a more performant network, like if we're going to move towards what Solana is, you have to like slowly raise the hardware requirements. You can't like I think this is the trap that like Bitcoin gets stuck in, is that they're like, okay, we want to be able to run a Bitcoin full node on a computer from 10 years ago and it needs to work. Ethereum kind of said, we're just going to increase the requirements just a little bit.
Yeah.
We're not going to be like at the Solana level. You don't have to pay like $3,000 a month to run like a Solana node, but we're still going to be accessible for everybody. And so I think it'll just creep up as year to year hardware gets better, and then you can say, okay, we can move this one. Like the cost of storage is getting cheaper, and RAM, and whatever, everything.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good way to look at it as well. Is over time as computers get better, hopefully our network can.
I think I'm not sure if this is a disagreement with what you're saying, but
We'll treat it as one.
yeah, maybe just for fun. So like traditionally, if you wanted a faster like internet or world computer, maybe if we're going to talk about like a blockchain, right? Like Solana took the approach of like being more centralized at first, and because they were more centralized, like it was this these like network operators like had more performant machines that like could operate at the level that Solana and like the SVM required. I think like Vitalik has been talking about for a while, having light clients and like eventually ZK light clients. I think the eventual vision for Ethereum is for us to like increase performance of the network while also minimizing costs to like be an operator or like be a like some sort of contributor to the performance of the network. Like that's the idea of like the verticalization of Ethereum, right? Like that's stage 4 of Vitalik's plan, right? From what I understand, please call me out at Maconomics on Twitter. Please call me out if I'm wrong.
Didn't he call it the verge? Because there was like the
Right.
the merge,
Yeah.
the purge, the surge, the verge.
The verge. So like the verge
which in
is
French
like
is hilarious.
yeah. Like that is what I'm talking about, like the verticalization of the network. So I think like we've learned a lot about how this could work with networks like Celestia coming out and like showing a proof of concept of like how light clients could work, and eventually how like ZK light clients could work as ZK becomes more like sophisticated as well as scalable. Like the RISC-0 guys are talking about, being able to run a ZK light client like from your Apple Watch. That's probably like several years out by now, several years out for now. But this stuff is getting better, and I think eventually we will get to a point where we'll be able to like afford better performance inside of Ethereum with lower boundaries. And I hope that alongside that, we can also go towards like lowering the economic barriers of being able to run one of these eventual light clients where you don't have to, stake 32 ETH for that, but it can be something lighter. Just like, I don't know, maybe somehow proportionate to like, I don't know, the compute power of a light client versus like a full node.
Okay, and you made me think of some things. Switching tactics a bit. We talked about restaking. We talked about L1 and what happens in there.
Yeah.
L2s.
Yeah.
Common theme, we do not have enough of them now.
We don't have enough.
We need more L2s,
We do
right?
need more L2s.
Yeah. Do you agree?
We need a lot more L2s.
Everybody agrees we need more L2s.
I don't agree.
So many more.
I don't agree.
We need so many more. No, but we do. We need a lot more L2s.
Why?
Everybody should have his own.
Everyone needs their own L2.
Everybody needs their own L2.
Why though?
Because if you're an app and you're successful on the chain, it becomes too expensive to run your app on the chain. So it's better for you just to launch your L2, and then you move to the L2. Other apps launch on your chain, they're going to become successful as well too, and the whole cycle repeats. So like the demand for L2s will be endless because everybody's going to want their own environment, which they can build and control, and also capture fees, and then give them the space to really design in whatever the way they want to, and not have the constraints of whatever network they started on.
Yeah. So I think, like, I agree with you, but there's like some nuance to that. Like, I think the only way to justify like app specific block space is when you have an established user base.
Yeah, that's why I said when they become successful.
Right.
You can't do it out of the gate. I can go to
Right.
what is it called? Whatever the L2 for services. I can go there. I can spin up an L2 in like 5 minutes. Doesn't mean anybody's gonna use it. Doesn't mean that I'm gonna get VCs to come to me and like justify giving me like $500 million in like
That'd be nice.
seed A, B,
That'd be
C,
nice.
B funding. And then launching at like a $5 billion valuation or whatever we're getting recently. I think that like you have to become successful, and you only move away from your initial network or app or whatever you're in, right? App chain. You only move into your own L2 once you've outgrown it, and you have to be able to expand demand somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. Like, you need to have app specific block space eventually to make it affordable for you for your users. Like, if you're an app, or let's say if you're a killer app, then like you need to be investing maximally in UX. But the thing is though, is like why we might not need abundant L2s is because we don't have abundant killer apps. Like, the only like time when you need an L2 is like, when you're generating so much fees that like it makes sense to like, if people want to talk about how expensive it is to actually like launch an L2, like
I think it's $3,000 a month.
yeah, like with Conduit, it's
Conduit, that's
it's $3,000 a month. But like before Conduit, or like if you want to like bootstrap the system yourself, like expenses like get high pretty quickly. And so like before you have PMF, it's really hard to be an L2, or like to be your own L2. But that's the thing right now that like we don't have in crypto, is that we don't have enough killer apps that like people are addicted to enough, or killer apps with like actual revenue generating mechanisms that like can make this or make launching app specific block space like reasonable. It's
I think we're going to see it soon, and I hate that terminology, but I'm already seeing it. There's several games, like fully on-chain games, which demand a ton of on-chain compute plus transactions. They have a lot of users. They get popular super fast, and we're already seeing a lot of these games become. I mean, before the addition of the blobs, it was pretty expensive to play them. Even on L2s, it could cost like $1 transaction. That's gone down now to like 1 or 5.
Yeah.
But like to be a fully on-chain game where like everything is on-chain, it's hard. And so these are already launching L3s. There's a game on base called ETHXY, which started out as a game on base. When it became too expensive to run transactions before blobs came out on base, they started an L3, and now it's an L3. It runs on their own token. You like when you play it, when you like interact with their game, everything is on chain. You can go see it in the Block Explorer, but you pay no fees because I don't know if they're subsidizing with their own gas, but they get to control that, right? And they've abstracted that away from all the users who still think they're on base.
But kind of a counterpoint to it.
Yeah.
I mean, staying on base. We can fight over it. Staying on base. No, like it's good you bring it up. Like I've talked a lot to the developer and followed it from early. There's a project on base called FriendPet, and I think for a long time it was like 30% of the transactions on base.
Yeah.
And the developer managed to kind of in the transaction take a fee and abstract paying back gas on behalf of the user. So from a user's point of view, they just pay like a fee in the token that they'd issued.
Right.
And they were able to make that financially viable for them. It's like a Tamagotchi type game, and they've got battles and other stuff. It's a fun little game. I'm not trying to shill it or anything, but it was one of the first, like after FriendTech, that went down the privy route, where you play it on your mobile, and it's interesting to see that they're able to make it work and make a user experience which, to an extent, abstracts that.
I think the bigger issue is not like, because I think the whole idea of like L1, L2, app chain, L3. You want to go down the list. It's gonna like really disappear over time, and the only thing that we're gonna look at is like who's settling where. And right now, there's really only 5 places. There's Ethereum on the L1 where all the L2s settle to, and then you have Arbitrum, Polygon, Optimism, and these are stacks. These are like tech stacks, right? So you have those 4 as tech stacks, and this is kind of like you look at Conduit. You then have to choose your like settlement layer, and I think the settlement layer will be really important because anybody can launch an L2, but you still have to choose where you're going to go settle. And so like if I'm going to be looking at the long term, because we talk about all the apps, when they leave, they take all that revenue of generating transactions that like Base would normally earn. They take that away. They don't earn that anymore. Now that goes into the app itself. So like when but still what's important is like if they're settling, because that's going to be like permanent forever income that the L2 is providing. And so the L2 that gets the most settlement on it is going to win in the end.
I mean, right now, I think the one that's winning, if you look at numbers, is Arbitrum. Like by
Arbitrum?
far. Yeah, they're getting TVL, it keeps going up, transactions keep going up.
You don't think it's the super chain?
Look, I think the super chain is great, and I think Coinbase with Base have done a great job at marketing that. And people like that it has a connection to Coinbase, and that's why it's doing very well. But look at Arbitrum, like all the numbers, it's doing really, really well.
Yeah, but that's just for Arbitrum. Like what other L2s are settling on Arbitrum?
I mean, I think they have some
Orbit
call them
chains.
layer 3s. Is it Senko?
There-
Some of them?
There's a number of orbit chains, but
Yeah.
I'm not a frequent user of them, so I'm not quite sure.
Another protocol with a BSL, by the way. Just to bring it back to
Wait, what's
business source license.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think this whole L2 thing, I think we've like over-indexed like over the course of the last 2 years.
So we need more L3s.
No, like I think there's the optimal future is better performance at like the infrastructure layer, like the hardware layer and the software layer. So yes, like while app specific block space does make sense for some use cases, you know, if we have a more performant VM like the SVM, where you have like local fee markets, then you know you can control the user experience a lot better than like an EVM L2 or like any other app specific block space that doesn't have local fee markets. Like you don't run into the same like noisy neighbor problem where there's like an NFT launch and suddenly like gas spikes for everyone and everyone's like, oh my god, we hate NFTs, but we don't obviously. But like, yeah. So I think while app specific block space, yeah, it makes sense for some, but at the same time, like it doesn't make sense for others if you can still get the same like economic output without having to like incur the same overhead. And yeah, there's also like a graduation process too. Like there's the process of finding PMF, and once you have PMF, once you have revenue, then it makes more sense to like control those fees yourself instead of like renting security from an L1. Like the business argument for launching an L2 makes a lot more sense, especially like if you can control sequencer fees. At the same time though, like if you want to play that game, you're also like losing composability with everything else. So yeah, like as someone that initially got like hardcore pilled by Celestia and like the whole L2 thesis for a while, I'm starting to like kind of move away from believing that is like the ultimate end game, because I think that there is a lot of like valuable lessons to learn from Solana, and like these more performant like base layers, such that we don't like we may not need this like multiple layer abstracted future, and that like the perfect kind of end state is continuing to innovate both at the hardware and software layers, where like we can fit use cases that make sense for everyone, not just like single players. That's not that hot of take, but that's just where my brain's been going recently.
I think anytime you say Celestia, it's automatically assumed to be a hot take.
Yeah.
No, I think you bring up a good point with Celestia and Solana, and I think it's what I'm really like in this space is that there are so many people that are trying to do things a different way to ultimately figure out what is the right answer, and it won't always be a singular right answer. Probably multiple right answers. Yeah, like contrast with kind of the Bitcoin maxis of everybody else is wrong except for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite healthy that we have that.
Sorry. But like the mafias are important for like mindshare establishment. Like there's a lot of people in the Celestia or like in the modular ecosystem that believe that like modularity like is the only way.
It is. But doesn't that just mean that it's in a Rust crate? It's what modularity means?
like it's funny, but at the same time, like most people that have those heavy opinions, like it's just because that's where their bags are. So it's hard to get people to be honest when money's involved, I think.
So I want to wrap up with one thing.
Sure.
I tried to get some like hot takes today that we published on Substack, and I just want to run through some of it when I was writing today.
Are they Belgian food-based hot takes? Because I got a lot of those. It's not good.
Actually, I included you in the blog today.
Oh,
I did.
Just for my takes on food.
Actually, it was. Let me pull this up.
I'm still struggling with the food here. I finally had something that was resembling healthy food today.
Yeah, so
I just keep having scones, or what are those called? Croissants.
The croissants are okay. I've not had them here.
Just all butter.
I live in France. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to read all of it. I did say that you said that the food was a quote unquote downgrade, according to
definitely.
Liquidy's head of product and French resident Colin Platt.
Yes.
Talked about walking out into the red light district from the train station first thing. That was a little weird.
That was not a quote from me.
No, that's not from me. Okay, so we're all here. We're like meeting with people. We're having meetings. We're like going out to events. People are paying for our food. We get to get free coffee everywhere. The Germans are dumping BTC across the border. faster than Sailor can buy it with more convertible debt. And I don't really know what I mean, I said this yesterday, but I still don't know what the big narrative is here at ECC. I think that like we're in this kind of like lull where like a lot of important stuff is getting built, like FHE, agents, like everything else. But the big retail narratives have kind of faded. We're in this, even like the Solana stuff kind of faded as well too. And from what I've seen here, the stuff that's on the horizon, or at least the big promoters here, aren't really like going to be those like generationally changing projects that we're going to be that will be the number one thing. Like when we talked about it at East Denver, is all AI. Like AI was everything, right? And I know that AI is still big, but NVIDIA kind of had its day. It's peaked a little bit. Valuations are coming back. People are starting to wake up that like, okay, well, now that NVIDIA is topped, we have to kind of figure out things a little bit better. And so it's almost like, do you follow basketball?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like this year's draft,
Celtics
right?
fan.
It's like this year's draft. There's like no superstars that came in this draft, right? There's a bunch of good role players. Maybe there is one guy in like the first or second round, but we don't know, and it's not projected, and it's probably not likely. We're just getting a bunch of really good role players, probably going to help out, probably going to be a long time, but nothing on the scale of what we saw like in earlier this year. And that's totally fine, right? So like at East Denver, the hot topics were like AI, restaking, Berachain, L2s.
Now it's Monad.
Yeah.
I get the wristband.
I think Bera kind of takes Bera takes the top spot here.
I mean, they both have excellent marketing strategies.
They do. Yes, they do.
Not to say anything that is not merited, but they both are very, very good at it.
So AI's peaked. We went through restaking. It's peaked a little bit as well too. I know it's still really like hot, but it's not as hot as it was in the early part of this year. Mainly because like a lot of the tokens that had LRT, or a lot of the LRTs that were like promising tokens, gave their tokens out. Eigenlayer kind of gave its token out as well too, but it's not like liquid until next year. I think that
Here's a hot take: we can create more tokens.
we can create more. We can always create more tokens.
I have a hot take. I think Bitcoin restaking will be the next, maybe.
Well, we'll get there.
Bitcoin
We'll get there.
L2s,
We'll get there. So and then Berachain, I think that the Blast has kind of put a damper on Berachain's launch, because Blast came out at a $2 billion valuation, which was like way lower than everybody thought. Like people were really unhappy about how much time and effort and money they had either like farmed with or like lost on Blast, only to get like a tenth of it back. So I think people are getting a little skeptical of like these like airdrop launches, and Berachain is going to have big airdrops because they had all these like bears that they made, and they've done all these quests and things. So let's talk about the sponsors here. I'm sorry for ECC why we're doing this, but the four big sponsors that were like diamond sponsors, and I know this isn't like indicative of like the overall market. Maybe they're just here to like raise money, and they need to be here to like get the primary boost so they can talk to the most amount of people, but we're going to run through them. So there's four, right? So the first one is Key Rock, OTC market making like fund firm, right? Great business right now. Everybody's selling their bags at like 70 to 80% off in OTC deals. They must be doing a lot of business. Has all that
That's a very competitive business as well. Like OTC, I mean, the biggest player in the space is well, at least the CEO is now in jail.
Yeah.
But so they're gone. But it's still a very competitive space.
Yeah.
Amongst the other players who are all top notch,
right?
Including the sponsor.
Right. So ZK Sync, airdrop farm. I don't know if you've seen the charts recently, but it's
undervalued technology.
I know. I have written here there is some good tech underlying the network, but you would never know, because after the airdrop, people just stopped caring and left for the next free money machine.
I mean, L2's non-optimistic rollups, meaning ZK rollups, have not performed particularly well in the token markets.
Exactly.
I can think of one other I saw all 8 users, by the way, by the booth.
Actually, I said that ZK Sync sponsoring the event is by far the closest they'll come to actual users in the month of July. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean, like.
Oh yeah, we got two more. So next is Telos, and I'm just they have this like really generic. It's like the most generic like
ChatGPT
thing
description?
I've ever seen in my entire life. Telos is a growing network of networks hyphen layer 0, enabling zero knowledge technology for high performance scalability and privacy to support all industries and applications.
But do you know like one of their main board members is OG, like the first employee consensus?
Yeah, but here's the thing:
They'll do well.
They've got some other stuff. They talk about TPS, which I thought we like gave up in 2017, and they also talk about the low carbon footprint. You know, getting those good ESG points here,
We need those,
like the
yeah.
capital.
We're in Europe. We need
We're in
those.
Europe, yeah, right. But what was really strange to me when I like just did like 5 minutes of research on this is like Telos's market cap is $100 million FTV,
We should get into that.
right? How much do you think a booth like the premier diamond sponsor at this?
Remember the
event
point that I
costs?
made earlier?
50K.
50?
Diamond.
Diamond, like premier
200K. 200K.
at the premier Ethereum. I think it's probably closer to $1 million.
No.
No, really, it has to be.
Let's find out.
Because I don't think it's just the booth. They also get a bunch of speaking spots as well too, all throughout the thing, right? Like if you look at, we'll get this in our next one, but Anoma had like 20 speaking spots.
Anoma has always been a top sponsor of ECC as long as I can remember.
Yeah. So I'm going to say it's like anywhere between 500,000 to $1 million. So Telos, if they actually use their treasury funds, spent 0.5% to 1% of their total FTV just to get a spot on paper. Which is,
Money well spent.
I don't know.
But we love ECC.
ZK Sync, on the other hand, is $3 billion FTV. They spent 0.003% of their tokens if they paid for it by selling tokens. Okay, let's go in the last one. Anoma, great tech. Not going to say anything bad. Please give us an airdrop.
Please continue sponsoring ECC so we can afford to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Give us a deal. We're open here at Leviathan.
We'll say nice things.
Yeah, we'll say. I mean, we're gonna say nice things anyway. I like Anoma a lot.
I get paid nothing for being on this, by the way. I just happen to show up because they tell me to.
But like, just to like cap this off, like Intense is a narrative. If I'm gonna go talk to my dad about Intense, I say, Dad, like, let me just like explain Intense to you, like, here's what to do. You like make a transaction, like somebody else comes and solves it for you, and he's gonna be like, isn't that front running? Isn't it just like something illegal? It's payment for order flow. We're just recreating Citadel 2.0. You know,
Intense. In like fundamentally, like Intense and market makers are like the same thing, if not like very small differences in how they operate. But
yeah, my understanding of Anoma is that it's a direct competitor to Flashbots. In a sense, and that Flashbots is the king, and they're making a shed ton of money. And now you have all these other like protocols coming out saying, "Oh, hey, we're going to be decentralized." But essentially, you're just creating private mempool for order flow. Like it's Robinhood selling to Citadel, but just in a different market. And I talked to the Anoma guys about it today, and they're like, no. There's like, you don't have to do financial transactions. You can do like messaging. You can do like WhatsApp. It's like, oh, like nobody's paying for that.
Mm-hmm.
The people that like want to be in these transactions are the searchers who go out and like build the transaction and make the money, or like Jared, who's most interested in either. I don't think he front runs anymore, but he definitely back runs. Maybe he does front running. I don't know.
I think he's just being out competed by better stuff. I mean, you definitely still see Jared transactions all the time. But
he makes a lot of money.
Good for him.
Good for him.
Good for
Yeah.
him.
Anyways, that's kind of like the overview of what I've seen. I know there was a lot there, but that's just kind of the general sense that I get. Obviously AI and everything, but we're in a kind of a bear market right now. Everything's cooled off. But when I'm thinking like 2 to 3, maybe I just don't understand enough about like the AI stuff, because like it feels really early. There's nothing tangible yet. Nobody's using it. And so it's hard for me to make these like proclamations about what's going to like work or not work.
I'll tell you which AI I'm actually excited because they're paying for my drinks right after this. Is Venice, Eric Voorhees' project.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a friend that's working with it. It's very cool. If you haven't used it, like they've got free. It's a ChatGPT kind of thing, like comparison, but it's private and permissionless. That's what they're going for. It's cool, and it's got some cool features that I like as I'm not an expert on AI, but the fact you can change models
Mhm.
and get different results feels to me like an upgrade over using ChatGPT if you use it frequently
Yeah.
in the text boxes.
And look, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer about all this. I really don't. Like, I love being bullish, just like the rest of you. I'm just like, maybe it's just too many Belgian beers and jet lag. But
I mean, I think you're thinking in the right direction. I think the reality is that like a lot of the things that you've mentioned, or like as themes, a lot of it's vaporware, and I'm like,
When has that ever stopped us before?
right. But like, here I am, like thinking that like I should probably keep my mouth shut about like my opinions about any of these protocols that we just talked about.
You got the title of the show. We're doing hot takes.
it's like the Jose Mourinho. Like, if I say too much,
I'm in big trouble.
I'm in big
Yeah.
trouble.
Like everyone feels that, and that's not okay. Like this industry is it's funny. Like we've spent like 3 years over optimizing on infra that like might build better applications like 10 years from now, and then now everyone's calling for like real world applications, and it's like, well, like, okay, Mr. VC, like you only invest in like the infra deals that are like 10 years out, like and that's because like, I mean, for anyone that knows like how VCs work, like they just want to report higher returns to their LPs, and like building infra is a lot easier than building a killer application. And so
this is the opportunity for us. Is they're not investing into that, and if you go, there's an opportunity that people are not investing. We need applications to make these things work. Eventually, somebody's going to put money into it. Buy them now. Like, buy things that work. Buy things that are applications.
Yeah.
I'm going to shill our own bags. Like buy DeFi protocols that work.
Yeah.
Buy
Same.
LQTY.
Yeah.
I did not say it.
I
Buy
agree.
LUSD for $1, and when it's out, buy Bold for $1.
But there will only be one LQTY, right?
There are 100 million LQTY.
Well, I mean, like one categorical LQTY. Anyways,
Yeah, but I agree. Like the market lacks a lot of practicality right now. Like practical applications are not getting interest, or like they're not getting attention because they're like too tangible, which is so counterintuitive. And so yeah, like in terms of hot takes to I don't know, the AI shit, that's like all vaporware, or not all vaporware, but like a lot
Except
of it
for
is.
Venice, we like Venice.
A lot of it
we
is.
established this,
And like people like are vocal about that too. Like, no one cares about another ZK EVM. It's like
is FHE a thing?
No, or like
Ooh.
it is.
Ooh,
It is.
There's
It
a
is.
hot take.
And like as someone that's working on an MPC protocol, like yes, yes, FHE is a thing, but like the like real world use cases for it are still several years out right now.
Or like 5 to 10?
Like realistically, around like 5. If you talk to a bull from like any of these FHE projects, like they're going to tell you 1 to 2, but like it's probably going to be closer to like 3 to 5 years.
So come back in 10 years.
But yeah, it's, I don't know. Let me cook on some thoughts and someone else talk for now.
Okay. Sam, let's hear from you.
Give us hot takes. Tell us about the food. I'm hungry, obviously.
No, I just think it's a natural lull in the market. I think we're gearing up towards Q4 being hot with Eigenlayer launching, with a few other DeFi protocols launching, us with Liquidity V2. We've got Uniswap V4.
Is there another time in like your time in crypto that it's felt like is this 2020? Like it's not 2021 because DeFi just launched and it was like massively inflows getting there, but it's more like 2019, like pre DeFi summer, the time leading into DeFi summer of 2020.
2016.
2016.
This is 2016 right now.
Where everybody's trying to just figure out shit.
Everybody's trying to figure out shit, and people are kind of disengaged from a lot of stuff that didn't work in 2015. Like 2015, I was working at a bank, and they were getting into crypto and blockchain, and people were like, "Okay, this is exciting," and then they were like, "Okay, this isn't that exciting," and then it was kind of that lull, and then bam, like it took off in 2017.
But maybe we're expecting too much. I mean, like when I look at the stablecoin numbers, I'm really impressed. I'm always impressed with stablecoin stuff, and it just grows, and it's not going to grow $100 billion overnight, but it's growing month on month. We're getting better products. We're getting more stablecoins around the world, and that just means more DeFi usage. Obviously, going to get bigger slowly. Maybe it's just like if you look at the Nasdaq back in like the early bubble years, it bubbles, it crashes, and then it takes 10 years for it to kind of consolidate and run up. And I don't think it's what's going to happen here, but I'm saying like peak interest. We had like these first 2 cycles, and now we're getting to a point where like everything is just like building, and it's going to take a long time. Product cycles take forever, especially with more complex things. Consumer apps take a lot of time to find product market fit. And so maybe we've built all the cool stuff that we need to build so far. DeFi is really mature at this point. Like how many more like lending protocol types or everything? Like we kind of like
One more.
One more, obviously. Like we've brought a lot of like, there's a lot of maturity in the DeFi space, which is great. Oh no, you're great.
He said we didn't need any more lending protocols except for one.
No, I think we have a lot of maturity in the DeFi space, which is great, which means that people can go out and like build stuff that is not DeFi, build stuff that is not infra. Now that we have 1,000 L2s, like actually build stuff that's going to bring in demand.
Are the institutions coming?
They're already here.
Are they?
Yeah, they're already here.
Are we the institutions? Are they locked in with us? Are we locked in with them?
It all takes a few days of good Ethereum ETF inflows, and I think the whole dynamic shifts. So,
Is that launched yet? I've not paid attention.
no, not yet.
I thought maybe that would happen while we were here.
I think RWAs will be huge for institutional inflow. I think right now, though, like institutions, I don't know, 2 trillion in TVL on chain, or like in what total market cap on chain right now, or what is it, 1.2 trillion total market cap? That's like nothing to big institutions. Like we still are like a fly on the wall to them. And I don't think any of them at this rate are like very incentivized to use RW or like to transfer assets on chain, because like there's no customer that they care about that exists on chain besides like some of these on chain institutions, I guess maybe, but like if they're going to build a blockchain, like they're going to build it internally and use it to improve their processes. Like they're not going to build on Ethereum. They
can settle on Ethereum.
So right, like they will build their own L2, but the thing is like, or maybe build their own L2, but like the privacy problem, like that's what is keeping many of them away. So like until FHE is fully available on chain, like I doubt, like there aren't many practical solutions for blockchains unless it's a private ledger for like these institutions to really like come in and like make a difference for us. Like we're all begging them to come in because like we know that, you know, once they come in and bring their liquidity, like that's going to open up the floodgates for us, like the insiders, like in that work in crypto.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like there are bigger fish to fry for them. Like we aren't their customers.
So this is the hot take show. You're wrong. This is my opinion.
Okay.
No, I mean, I am bearish on RWAs. I'll say that. Like I think
Which ones?
pretty much anything that isn't like USDC and Tether. Like I think there is a good place for
Short-term treasuries.
cash on chain.
Let's just call it like not illiquid RWAs.
Yeah, okay, so illiquid RWAs, things like tokenizing. I remember way back when tokenizing houses and like loans and car loans, and like I don't think that makes sense because we live in this like anarchic network world where it just doesn't play well with it.
We talk about houses, right? I actually had dinner with this guy last year.
They're wonderful people working on it. They're very smart. They're
But what he had figured out was like, we don't need blockchain for like the sales process. It's already been like done really well, right? What we need blockchain for
housing
or like house sales is have you bought a house before?
I have.
In the States?
No.
It's a horrible process.
But it's horrible in Europe as well.
Yeah, you got to go to like 15 different people
that you don't have to do.
In
We're
America,
very centralized,
Okay,
but
but
it's
in-
France administration. I think we can one up you on that.
in America, you got to go to like 15 different people. You got to go get a credit check. You got to get like a background check. You got to get you got to go to your bank and get like all this stuff. They got to go to the government to get like the title and everything. So there's like 15 people involved in the sale of a house, and none of them trust in each other, and none of them have like a shared system where they can verify the data that the other person has. And so everything that's done with house sales inside the United States is done with paper documents.
Mhm.
And so like your closing is going to have a book of docs that your realtor is going to have. It's probably this thick of just all the paperwork from the banks, from the background, because it's the only way that they can verify it with doing that. So I chatted with this guy, and it's unfortunate I can't remember that off the top of my head, but what he was doing is he was getting all different providers to sign up for his blockchain so that they could attest to the veracity of their documents. And it would take the closing time process from like 30 days down to like 5 days, which is absolutely insane. You talk to any like broker or realtor, like 5 days to like close a house is unbelievable.
Very quick.
Yeah.
I will give you a good anecdote on buying houses. When I bought my house in France, what's really cool when you buy a house in France is you go through a notary and they have all the paperwork like this, and you have your little blockchain. And they give you papers of like, we found one from like the 19th century of like a fisherman sold the land to this family.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, wow, that's quite cool. Like just having that history is really cool. Blockchains wouldn't have the same, to see the fisherman's like X on the piece of paper. You just lose that nice little thing about it.
Yeah, but having hot take here too,
Yeah.
I really also don't believe in the real world asset thing and
Go figure the liquidity guys would say this.
putting these things on the blockchain. I hope you didn't invest, but not just because this is just making it digital. I don't see the much value of the blockchain there. Sure, you can attest, but you can attest also in a Oracle DB or sign, with your e-government ID. It doesn't need to be on the blockchain. And the same for the real world assets. I think where I see it is if you open up a new distribution channel, but you don't need to tokenize it where we already have the rates.
Yeah.
What I would be bullish on and kind of to add into this is, I think putting the house records on chain. Okay, whatever. What I do think will be interesting is when we have like legitimate loans, under collateralized loans between people on chain, where the agreements are on chain. Yes, we're going to need to tie this in and have some kind of court or arbitration if somebody doesn't pay, and we can't do it fully anon. But being able to bring that in with all of your other DeFi building blocks, I think will be really cool.
Yeah.
That starts to look like TradFi.
Yeah.
I think that's where we'll have more growth than trying to bring real world assets on chain, bringing real world agreements that are under collateralized in chain.
So bringing real world financial standards on chain, as in like credit and insurance and things like that.
Yeah, there the beauty is once you have tokenized these loan agreements, now I think you can bring in the power of blockchain. If you can now fractionalize that and repackage that in a much simpler way, I think that's then fun. Then you have
you can see the Americans getting nervous here.
Yeah, but we looked into that because in Switzerland you can tokenize securities kind of in a legally normal way. So you can split it up, you can package it again. So if you have this legal framework, I think, then you have a lot of possibilities. But I think then it's really only valuable if with the transfer of the token, you transfer the title.
Mm-hmm.
Because for everything else, kind of then in a binding way, for example, in Switzerland, if you do that on a public blockchain, that's valid. That's like in TradFi. So then you can really use the power of the blockchain. For everything else, I think you can just do it in a digital way or signing it or a database. And I think then we have too many hopes for something I think is not really a business case.
Yeah, it just seems that like
Two mics. Take them both.
I've heard about like securities coming to blockchain for probably what is 2024? 6 years now since like mid 2018 is when people started talking about this.
I was talking about it in 2015.
2015. Yeah.
I mean, the startup
wrong.
in 2019.
Yeah, everybody's. There's been like a bunch of different protocols out there, or like companies that have been trying to like tokenize stuff. Nobody ever had any success until they were like, oh, hey, let's just put short-term treasuries on, and the rate was high enough. Such a weird time, right? That on Aave the rates were like 2%, 1%, and all of a sudden like short-term treasuries spiked up, and the rates were like still low, but there wasn't really demand because we were in the bottom of the bear market. Like inflation was high, short-term treasuries went to like 5, and then all of a sudden everything just flipped. We flew out of the bear market, and now rates are at like 9 to 10. It's such a weird disconnect between like on-chain demand for stables versus like what the real rate is.
The Fed bailed us out. I think the whole thing was Fed raised rates. We got some of that money back in, and then it just like jammed in there. Like Tether got money. They're like, we're buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, so on the RWA thing, like, does this mean that like Aave is going to be the most important DeFi app of the next decade?
After liquidity.
I'm looking at it like you guys have let's talk.
We have a niche.
Let's talk post product,
Yeah.
right? And it's different. It's not like
Yeah.
different type of product, not stablecoin issuance.
I think Aave and other lending markets are incredibly important. I would say the most important DeFi primitive is still Uniswap. Like I think Uniswap is in so many different things and useful. And I say Uniswap, also Curve I would put in there.
V2 or V3?
Uniswap?
Yeah.
I would amalgamate them all together, even V1, but as an idea rather than anything else. But yeah, obviously V2 is extremely important right now and is resurged because of meme coins. But I think V3 and I'm a big bull on V4. I like hooks. I think they're quite cool. But I'm a product guy. So I think being able to swap tokens on chain will be one of the primary use cases for DeFi. It's a hot take.
I have a question for you. Why
What
should
was the question?
okay? Why should tokens sit in a Uniswap contract when they could, especially from a market maker perspective? Why should the market maker deposit into the Uniswap contract when they could just keep it on exchange and then like flash loan in, or like, you know, make the swap in when there's demand for it, either coming through like the Uniswap X style stuff, CowSwap. Like, shouldn't that be the default?
So the big difference, there's a couple of reasons why I think Uniswap, and let's start with V2, are really cool, is the ability to kind of create a market where it's small and nobody would touch it. The market makers are great when we have liquid assets, but trying to create liquidity from nothing, Uniswap has proved is very, very efficient. V2, that was a primary use case. I mean, liquidity mining back in DeFi summer, that was massive. Not just because we got crazy APYs, but because there was actually product market fit, because there was tokens coming to market, and they said, all right, 2017, we got to pay, Bitcoin here, Bitcoin there, and it was like the Bitcoin handshake to get in, listed on an exchange, and then you knew it would work because that was just a pain to get there. But that didn't really create the value. Whereas then Uniswap came along, people figured out how to really easily implement liquidity mining, and you could set up markets overnight. Pump.fun is another way where we've democratized that even further. With V3, you can still do the same thing. You can say, I want to set up a new market, or I want to build liquidity at these specific points, and you have a lot more points you can put that in. And I think that's incredibly valuable. You are absolutely correct. When you get to a point, I think a lot of that's going to start to move to different types of infrastructure. CowSwap and Uniswap X are great examples. It will go further than that, but I think the prevalence of Uniswap V2, and it's still often kind of up on par when you pull out the stable coins. It's on par with Uniswap V3 usage. I think that kind of thing will remain for a long time.
I got one last topic before we wrap up.
I'm on it.
Does anybody want to respond? Or I got one last topic before we're going to wrap up. Are we mid and in our own bubble? because I have like my normie friends. Maybe you guys have normie friends. I have a few.
I don't talk to them about crypto.
I have tokens.
I tell people that I work in tech.
That's true.
Fintech.
But my old friends, normie friends, they buy crypto, but they buy stuff that I would never buy. I think they watch a lot of YouTube.
Hamcoin.
Like Cardano, right?
Yeah.
It was really big a cycle ago. There's some other stuff as well too. On the other side, we have like this whole like Asian contingent where they're buying stuff like I read a tweet today. This Korean investor had like $10 million in crypto. 5 of it was in WorldCoin. Like 2 was in Sui, and then like some was in Aptos and like something else. Ton. Yeah.
It reminds me of Polkadot though, like back in the day. Remember they had huge Asian contingencies like Cardano.
Yeah.
And it's like seems so disconnected from where we were in Europe and US.
Because I mean, I other than Ton, because I'm a like diehard Telegram user, we probably should do a Telegram show at some point, because like
We should do it from Telegram.
I think we'll be switching from like ECC to like Ton CC at some point.
You're that bullish on it.
I mean, like, there's 2 billion people that use Ton every single day.
So I had lunch with a friend who's building
Or
like an EVM wallet on Base inside of it that's almost as slick.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
I love Telegram. I'm a massive Telegram maxi. There is only one type of maximalism, and it's Telegram maximalism.
I'm a Slack
that's a hot take.
minimalist. I hate Slack, so I would like to move all of our
You're a Slack maximalist?
minimalist.
Oh, minimalist.
I hate it.
Okay. I don't think there's a better messaging app than Telegram, and I think that it's going to continue to grow, and they're going to add like stablecoin use, or they already have stablecoins in it. USDT is natively issued on Ton. They just introduced this like stars thing as well too. I think that like look at the market cap of what Ton is today. It's probably what 6 billion. If Facebook is something like $500 billion, maybe roughly, and they're a social app that has a lot of similar stuff to what Telegram is. Telegram could probably be the same size as Facebook in the future, which is like almost 100x from here, right? And I think it's entirely possible with they have 2 billion users, 900 of them are active every day, and it just makes a lot of sense. I would think like Telegram is a great bet. If I have $100 million and I need to invest in crypto right now, and like I'm looking to the future, like the metrics make sense for like a Ton investment.
What's your price target stop loss?
I have no idea. Like it doesn't matter.
Don't answer
It
that
doesn't
question.
matter because it's gonna go. It doesn't matter because it's like a small part of my portfolio and it's gonna go up 100x.
So
I want to hear the other case. Tell me why Ton is not gonna work, because
Sam, why's Ton not going to work?
I think that's the more important one.
I don't see much reason why it wouldn't. But I saw yesterday a guy who showed me an app he built on Telegram that you could long and short any token within the click of a button. And I was actually amazed that technology is already built in. I don't know. I think there's still some security stuff with them in order to figure out like how they store the keys and all that. But other than that, I think they have all the things they need to really be successful.
Except for support from the US. And like that's what keeps it feeling like it's 2 worlds between like the US and then like, especially like between like US and like Europe and Asia. Like Asia, or like the Asian market, like you said, isn't a completely different things than in like people in the US are. And I'm sure like also too like Europeans are kind of like split, I guess. But yeah, like I don't know. The regulations are like kind of what's maybe enforcing that divide, I think.
I hope you guys used all the websites while you've been here in Europe that you can access back home. Made all your claims, signed some transactions.
Made all your trades.
All the stuff you can't do back home.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why you've been here.
Yeah, we know. We're on it.
Yeah, but I would agree. I think don't underestimate regulation.
Yeah.
And just, also now with Miko having USDT in that app.
Yeah.
I don't know how they can sustain that and kind of cater then to this target audience. I think it just gets very hard. I think they have the reach. They can get a super app, and for some niche cases, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to pair it. But I think it's not so straight and kind of the sky is the limit case. Yeah, they will have some backsets.
I'm waiting for the Instagram version of Tana.
It's there already. Like, didn't you just see their last update?
No,
They
I don't
added in
use Instagram.
they added in paid posts. They have paid posts, and they also have like subscriptions.
But you have a wallet in it.
You buy stars, and then you can use the stars to.
Is there blockchain?
But I'm pretty sure in the future they'll move the stars to like some sort of tokenized format.
Wait,
Did
in Instagram?
No, in Telegram.
Oh,
No.
Uh,
Instagram, not Telegram. Instagram.
With like paid posts.
Like I do not use Instagram at all. Whenever I watch my wife using Instagram, I'm like, this is another world. Like you watch people. I don't know if you guys are Instagram users. It's completely different, but it's like if you had ways to like monetize stuff in there,
You do already like
with
I
tokens.
know
our way of
doesn't because like
monetization, the one we can bet on.
I was listening to somebody the other day, and they're like, I use like WhatsApp or something to talk to Messenger to like talk to everybody. My parents use Facebook on a daily basis, which is pretty accurate. But for Instagram, like Instagram is my go-to for shopping. Instagram is perfect for shopping. That's what people use it for. They have great products. It's essentially a product catalog that you can like click, get instant access to. I like that. Buy it right away. And that's where Instagram like makes all its money too, because they charge fees for people to advertise and to get in. And so it's mostly products in there that people just want to look and fire off.
Should Telegram buy Pump and Fun?
No,
Just build their own, a better one.
no.
But that would be, I think these use cases are probably easier to scale.
I think there's a limit on how much Pump.Fun can grow. There's only so much.
That's the only thing I learned in crypto. I would never have imagined. And of all these use cases, like people like to do and click, and it's just kind of never ending.
To me, the more obvious play is the friend tech in Telegram. Like, it's going to go the OnlyFans route. Like, eventually, Telegram will have a killer app that's OnlyFans in Telegram.
Or that fantasy top app, I think, right? Whatever
Yeah.
value you bring as a Telegram.
So social
community.
apps in crypto really suck because it's all about like how much value can I extract from other people, or like how valuable am I, right? Like I don't think people like that. It's good for like the popular kids who have big followings on X and other stuff, like Fantasy Top was. FinTech was just like how many people can I get into the Ponzi to charge like 10% each way to buy my token.
I gotta say though, my
Yeah.
favorite application on blockchain that ever existed and no longer exists was TCR Party. You guys ever see this? This was like way back, like bear market 2018, and it was some guys that got together and they did it. It was on testnet. They built it into Twitter, so it was on Rinkeby or something like that. And you set up a wallet. You would get on this list. People would get tokens and they would vote in DMs for or against like Twitter handles. And the only thing it did is if you were on the top 100 in the list, it would retweet your account. It like went down and stopped working, and my thing was on it for years after, and it stopped working like a year ago.
Damn.
There was no point to it, but it became one of those things like we had groups that were set up to like vote people off the list, vote people on the list, and it was whole cabals. And you couldn't make it was on testnet. You couldn't make any money out of it, but it was hilarious to get in arguments with people about why they got voted off the list.
You should relaunch on mainnet.
We talked about doing that, or on L2.
On like base or somewhere.
Yeah.
It could be a Farcaster.
It would be a great Farcaster thing. Yeah.
Great Farcaster frame.
Yeah.
Well, we've been rambling for a long time.
They're gonna kick us out of the building. Here,
Yeah.
I know. I'm getting hungry as well too. It's almost 6. So we'll wrap it up. Thanks for everybody for being here. Liam provided some great commentary.
We never even
thanks.
exchanged like we never even exchanged names.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
was just brought into the room and they're like, like
Anon culture, bro.
Go
I thought you
stairs.
knew. I thought you
Go
knew.
stairs.
I thought you knew everybody. I'm sorry.
Well, we were still waiting. You said you needed to think about what the worst LRT thing was.
oh.
I'm not
Do you-
actually- I would like to
Should
hear.
this be the bridge to the next hot take?
This should be the bridge to us.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do a mic drop. And
Yeah.
we,
I mean, it's not that hot of a take, but like this is what I was gonna say. I remembered it. You asked like how much security do you really need? That's kind of like the ultimate question for all these AVSs that are coming out. I think like, you know, there's no future where like an AVS will ever become like a like majorly adopted protocol with like trillions of like, you know, capital flowing through it. There gets to a point where like, you know, you need to graduate from AVS as a bootstrapping mechanism to your own like secure network that like is built on your own security parameters. So yeah, the AVSs like they're for bootstrapping. They're not for like long-term
So it suffers the same
protection.
Suffers the same issues as all the L2s and needing more L2s and more L2s. You bootstrap on the AVSs, you eventually get to the point where your token is worth a lot. Now you can just launch your own validator set.
That stakes that token.
And you don't have to pay the AVSs anymore.
Yes.
Because you can just capture it all.
And you could just take the same operators over.
So what does that mean for restaking revenues in the long term?
I mean, like, there's always going to be new protocols that are bootstrapping. And so, like, there's a lot of value to be extracted from that.
Speculative value.
No, like, there's a lot, like, value in, like, the security that a AVS can provide to a early project. But
I'm talking about in the sense of like people who are providing their security for the AVSs. There's a lot of speculative value in that, but it doesn't mean that there's any fundamental value for the long term. So that means that the AVS, like the restaking yield, is going to be like wildly volatile, like extremely volatile, and that's not what you want as a staking provider. You want to know consistently, like I'm going to get this, and like But if I guess if you want that, you just get an LSD, right?
Yeah, but you have to like, in order to build. Okay, this is the hot take that maybe we can, because I'm not going to verbal headlock you guys into staying longer, but like the difference now is that like, you know, people are going to care less about whatever yields they're getting from like restaking into an AVS, because it's likely that all of these restaking tokens that you're getting for yield are going to be like absolutely so worthless that like no one's going to want to hold them anyways. Like they're just going to always be like a downward sell pressure on them. And that's because no one in infra has done enough time in DeFi to be creative enough to build in value equivalent mechanisms for these infra tokens.
So you heard it from an infrastructure expert that your bags are going to zero.
I'm not an infra expert, but like a lot of infra bags will go to zero. Yes.
Your bag's zero. You heard it here.
Maybe that's the hot take. Like infra people, like go use some DeFi apps, go learn about DeFi mechanisms, figure out value accrual, and then there won't be like immediate downward sell pressure on all those tokens.
No, you'll just get long-term downward sell pressure, which never goes away, which we're in right now.
Making your
do you guys agree with that or no? Maybe.
No, I agree with that as well. I think that's totally valid.
Sorry.
So look at Curve, right? Down only, but still is like one of the biggest revenue generators, right? Anyways, let's wrap it there. We can do a whole nother show on revenue and why crypto markets hate revenue. Actually, it's like that Silicon Valley skit.
Yeah.
Like, no
you don't know how many times this came up in conversation over the last 3 days in my life.
This is hated. 10 years ago as well too. I mean, it makes sense for in a crypto company. You want to keep on raising. You don't want to show that, you know.
This was like Cardano never going live for like years. And the old, you know, no code, no bugs, no hacks. Vaporware. It's where it's at.
I'm in the opposite opinion. Like you should just go to market as fast as possible. You should figure out if you have PMF as fast as possible. If it doesn't work, just abandon it and like go do something else. People like forget really quickly in crypto that you like did stuff 3 years ago, and if you launch something else and like you try, at least if you're competent, you can at least try again and like get money to come in. Right? Just launch, see if it works. If it doesn't, like iterate, move on, try something else.
Yeah. That would suck. to look back on life and just think that you wasted time grifting and not building real value? Like,
I don't think it's grifting though.
who?
I mean, like, look, somebody has to think of all the people that were in Europe before Christopher Columbus, and who were like
Living a good life.
But there's like a big fucking ocean out there, and you're like the dude before Christopher Columbus who's like, maybe I should get a ship and sail across the ocean and see what's there. And you take a ship and you like crash, or there's a hurricane, and you're never heard from again.
Yeah.
Right. Like you grifted some money and then you died, but you were like on the way to doing it. You just didn't make it all the way. Right?
Dead.
It's that like the dude with the picks. That always the two dudes with the picks. One's like one strike away, and the other one kind of gives up.
Yeah.
In that case, dying. But it's not a grift. People feel it's a grift if you lie to them and it's fraud.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like if you keep doing the same thing forever without like trying to find the product market fit that you're talking about, then like you're kind of a grifter. Like if you're not like shipping, you're not like continuing to ship.
But let's say that because I saw this a lot in previous cycles. It's like, let's say that you launch a liquidity fork, right?
Or 7.
7 liquidity forks, and it just goes to shit, right? Now they're launching Liquidity again. Oh, why don't I just launch Liquidity again? But this time I'm going to use it with different assets that Liquidity doesn't have. It's never going to support Superworks and stuff. Like you're not really grifting, but like you're not like the Liquidity guys making great stuff. You're just doing what you can. It's just weird in like the tech space because like code is so easily copyable and everything. Like if you're like going to the meat space world and you're like starting a restaurant or like doing something where you actually have to be around people all the time, like people copy ideas all the time, like restaurant decor or like everything, food, like nobody cares, right? But in tech, we kind of see it as this like huge like liability, right? Anyways, it's more ranting.
No, it's good ranting.
Yeah.
There's lots of hot takes in there.
Yeah. So look, I don't think it's a grift. Like if you have a story to tell, and as long as it's not fraudulent, you're not doing some like the lady who did the blood testing things.
Or what?
Theranos. Yeah, as long as you're not Theranos and you're not like blatantly lying and like falsifying things.
Or launch a celeb meme coin.
Yeah, you like go out like what's kind of a shitty L1? What's Vitalik's mom's L1?
That's an
Or
L2.
Metis, right? Like
What? Metis is Vitalik's mom's L2.
Yeah.
You don't know
that?
I heard about that a while ago, I think, but like I just haven't thought about it in a long time. That's crazy.
Like let's say I go and like I don't know, I launch a DEX or a liquidity fork or something on Vitalik's mom's like L2, and Vitalik's mom's L2 like goes to 0 because nobody uses it. Like, is it my fault? I did something. I may have gotten some money for it.
It's Vitalik's mom's fault.
It's Vitalik's mom's fault.
I think like the point is like I'm not disagreeing with you. Like we're talking about the same thing, but I think maybe my first delivery was wrong. Like as long as you continue iterating, continue to like trying to find a product market fit, then you're not grifting. But like if you're just like delaying launch forever and ever and ever, and then raising more and more rounds, like similar to like I don't know, like how a lot of these traditional products are built, like you just I'm in the same like boat as you. Like ship fast, find users, find product market fit. But like if you don't have those things, then like do something different. Like iterate. If you're not doing that, then you're a grifter.
So you should be launching unaudited code.
No,
contracts.
that's not even it. But like I'm not gonna say it because like we all know who those teams are. But like just I don't know. Don't delay launch for like 4, 5, 6 years and like continue like raising rounds just because like
I'm in one of those projects.
Really?
Yeah, 6 years now.
But you
confess.
But Badger has a.
I'm not in Badger. This is let's not talk about Badger. I'm not talking about Badger. I invested into an ICO like back in 2018.
Yeah.
We're still building.
Yeah.
But there was no token.
Oh, sorry.
So anyways, invested into an ICO back in 2018. They're still building. they've done several other like equity raises. There's no token yet.
Yeah.
Supposedly the token's coming out this year.
Wow.
It's been very.
What's the longest project still building?
Oh, actually, that's the one I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Can I take the other side? Golem.
Who's been selling, right?
Who's been selling, so they're a bad project.
Bad.
But if their product market fit is making the price of ETH go down, we're
Yeah.
talking about them.
Yeah, we are talking about it. Golem kind of missed it because they could have been like an AI thing, right?
It could have also been a hedge fund like EOS.
Yeah.
At least EOS figured it out, right?
Okay, let's wrap it.
Yeah.
I want to go get some food.
Yeah,
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Good live stream, actual live stream.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can even see people coming and going totally lost and
Yeah,
not free.
that's nice. We're gonna do these some more. We'll make it professional next time in the next event that we go to. What's the next big thing?
Thailand, Bangkok,
Bangkok.
DEF CON.
Oh, really? What? Really? Oh,
I mean, there's more before, but
when's Token 24/9?
That's September, Singapore.
Sweet. Can't wait. Okay. Thanks everybody.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Or you just randomly pull?
No.
That's the next
That's
concept.
awesome.
Just come in.
Pull in